Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Claire. Today I am doing a what I read in the second week of January. So there's quite a few books this week. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 books that I listened to this week. So I will say this week was a bit of a rougher week. I've had a lot of weeks where most of my books are like 4 to 5 stars, and this week I had a lot of 3 stars. I also had a book that I rated 1 star. And honestly, if it wasn't so quick to listen to the whole thing, I probably wouldn't have stuck to it. But we'll kind of kick it off. So these are in the order I read them, and that's really the only organization that I have. But the first book that I listened to was called His. And that was by Aubrey Dark. And in a previous video, I listened to a different book by her as well. And this is the first book of that series. So I read the second one first. So I figured I'd go back and give this one a chance. And this one, very similar to the other one. It was quite gruesome and it was quite heavy in terms of there being kind of trends of SA, there being trends of DA, there being trends of kind of that type of nature of stuff. And then also unaliving people and the main male character kind of being a bit of a Dexter type personality. So that being said, this one, I mean, it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. This one follows a female main character called Kat, and she works at a library. She grew up in a home that, you know, her dad was abusive to her mom, and she wound up running away from home when she was younger and kind of escaping that. And she is, as she's working at the library at the beginning of the book, like talking to her friend, and her friend dares her to essentially kiss the first attractive guy that she sees. You know, she's calling her out for being boring, not really living, not doing anything exciting. And so the person that she does wind up seeing, like right after that in the elevator, is the main male character, and his name is Gabriel. So essentially that was kind of like how they met, a bit of a meet cute, and then she winds up finding something that he's left behind, following him back home. And then when she does get to his home, he's doing some Dexter-like behavior, like I kind of said, and she sees that, witnesses it, and then he essentially takes her captive. And then it kind of progresses from there, and that's where their romance starts. It's a little bit weird because she's essentially not able to leave, and they're against her will. And then it transforms into this romantic relationship. It was okay, but definitely not my favorite kind of book that I've listened to. So 3 stars, it was decent. I would even potentially say like 2.5 stars. But that was kind of that one. I probably wouldn't recommend it unless you're like really into that theme, but I think you could probably find something that's a little bit better written as well in terms of how the story unfolds and everything. The next book that I read, I was really excited to get into because I've read the first 2 of the series, and this one was Daydream by Hannah Grace. And this one, I believe the first ones were Icebreaker and Wildfire. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what they were. So this one I was really looking forward to because the first 2 books talked about Henry quite a bit, and he seems like this really sweet guy. And so this book was Henry and Hallie and following their romance and their story. However, it was so focused on the fact that they were neurodivergent and explaining that and explaining all of the struggles that they have with their neurodivergency that I felt like it kind of took away from the story. So I found it was harder to get into at the beginning because it was so focused on these elements rather than just like who they are as people and them navigating their relationship and just like the romantic side. So it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. I'd probably say it was 3.5 stars. But I wasn't really wanting to round up to 4 stars just based on how I kind of found the story. So I enjoyed the first 2 a lot more than this one, and it was disappointing because I thought this one was going to be my favorite out of the series so far. So it was okay, you know, definitely worth reading, but I didn't think it was anything mind-blowing. The next one that I listened to, it was more of like, I guess like a horror thriller type story, and it was called You Better Watch Out. And this one, it is essentially where it follows this male main character at the beginning, and I don't remember his name, but essentially he goes to this grocery store, sees this elderly couple, and he decides that he wants to rob them. And so she asks if he can help them take their stuff out to their car, and he does. The old gentleman is in a wheelchair, so he thinks it's going to be a really easy kind of steal for him. And then essentially he wakes up in this random little town. He doesn't know where he is. And it's like a Christmas themed town. So then he goes into one of the buildings and he finds two women that are also there that are seemingly in the same situation. So they've just woken up, and nobody knows where they are. And so essentially they're all working together, and they meet a few other people along their way, and they're trying to figure out how do they get out of this place where they've obviously all been taken. Again, there's like a few like gruesome horror type scenes that happen to people because there's like different traps and stuff that are set up throughout. So I found this book really interesting. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars, and it's essentially just following these people as they're navigating, like being in this really cold weather, snow everywhere. They don't know where they are. There's all of this Christmas themed stuff, like Christmas music playing, and it's like playing You Better Watch Out, and it's just like, you know, in a very spooky way. But I really thought this one was great. It had some great twists throughout the story that I really enjoyed. So 4 stars for that one. Definitely worth listening to or reading if you enjoy that type of genre in terms of your books. The next one that I read is the 3rd one of a series that I've been listening to, and this one was called The Puck Chase. And I'm just trying to think of the other books. So the one before this was The Puck Decoy, and the one before that, I think the first one might be like The Puck Chance or something, but I don't fully remember, so apologies for that. I'll put this image of this book up on the screen, and then you can go and see what the earlier books were. And so this book was by G.N. Wright, and this book was released on the 10th, and I wound up reading it on the 10th, so I read it in one day, and I read this one on Kindle. And essentially this one was really interesting. So in the first book, it followed Madeline, and his last name is Darkmoor, but I don't remember what his first name is. But that was like an enemy to lovers type story. The second book, in The Puck Decoy, it was essentially the brother of Madeline and her best friend. And it was essentially an arranged marriage where the brother was forced into this marriage and he selected Hallie. And so that's how it started. She's loved him all her life, and essentially they wound up getting married, and she's navigating this because it's just like a contractual thing, and he's navigating everything as well. So that like followed their story. And then this one followed Archer and Damon. So Archer is the best friend of the captain from the first one, and Damon is the best friend from the brother in the second one. And the brother and the boyfriend, the brother and the captain, are like enemies, like they hate each other, and so these two are kind of separated into these 2 different friend groups. And so it's really interesting because the first 2 stories, it talks a lot about Archer and a lot about Damon, and kind of like unfolds these different elements of their personalities, and you get to know them. And there's kind of like this weird tension between them where Archer's always riling Damon up. Damon is very solitary in his room a lot. And so this book is basically like uncovering their actual dynamic. And it's really interesting because the first book and the second book is kind of like sequential, like the first book and then the second book is after that. And then this book, the way that the author's done it, is it's actually through the full timeline of the first and the second books. So you're able to kind of like tie back what's happening in this book to what was happening in the timeline of the first and the second book. So I thought it was a really interesting way to write this one. I gave this one 5 stars, and this one, as you probably guessed, is a male-male romance, but I thought it was really well written. Really enjoyed this one throughout the full book, and I would say it's probably one of my favorite out of this series so far. And then the next book comes out in April, so it's going to be a little bit of a wait for that one to continue through the series. The next book that I read is called What If It's Us? This one is by Becky Albatali and Adam Silvera. So this is a really cute one. I think when I did my fields that I was searching for books, I wound up getting like the young adult romance books. So this one definitely had a very like YA theme feeling to it, just with how it was written, the simplicity of the writing, simplicity of the storyline, all of that. But essentially Arthur is in New York for the summer with his parents, and he's from Georgia. And then Ben is a boy that lives in New York. There's a bit of a meet cute where they meet at the beginning. They don't get each other's information. They're both trying to find each other, and then they do wind up finding each other. And they have a bit of a summer romance. So that's essentially the book. It's a very cute book. I gave it 3 stars. But again, it was just kind of more YA than I generally enjoy. But I think if you were in like that teen age range, you'd probably enjoy it a lot more. The next book here is called Slow Surrender. This one is by Cecilia Tan, and I gave this one 1 star. I just did not enjoy this book at all. Honestly, if it wasn't only like a few hours to listen to the full thing, I probably wouldn't have finished it. The main female character is called Karina. She's working in a restaurant helping her sister out. She meets the male main character who's called James. He's like very wealthy. And it's just like a very, very strange book, and it's very focused on like the dominant, submissive type of thing. And yeah, there wasn't much to the story. It was essentially very sexual in nature, and yeah, the whole storyline was just like trying a little bit too hard, but there wasn't actually any emotional components that would draw you in and make you really like relate to the characters or relate to their relationship. It seemed like a very cold, very distant relationship, but yet they were claiming to feel love for each other, and they made it kind of written in a way that seemed like they were falling in love, but there was no actual discussions or relationship building between them. So yeah, that one I probably would not recommend that one. Even looking at the reviews that I looked at after I listened to it, they weren't great overall. The next one that I have here is called Accepted Fate, and this is by Therese Spires, and this is another one that I read on Kindle. And this one is another one that it just looked like your typical kind of romance story, but it wound up being like a YA high school aged romance. So this one is between a female main character called Kinsley and a male main character called Brayson. And essentially Brayson is from, I think, Mississippi, and he goes to California to visit his cousin, like he does every year. And he's just there for a week, and he meets Kinsley on his first day. And there's just like this attraction. They're both very much in a mindset that like they don't believe in love and they don't want to fall in love. And then obviously they wind up falling in love. So that's essentially what the story is. And Kinsley refuses to like tell him where she's moving to, because she finds out at the beginning of the book that she's moving somewhere in the South. And it's not really disclosed where she's moving to throughout the book. And then he's from the South, obviously. So she won't tell him where in the South she's moving to. She doesn't want to know where he's from because she doesn't want to have any contact after the first week. And so that's essentially the storyline. It was a cute little story, but again, felt very like YA, which isn't what I was kind of looking for going into it. So I gave it 3 stars. I think if you were reading this as somebody in a younger age bracket, you'd probably really enjoy it and be like a 4 or 5 star. Just kind of not my thing personally. I think it was just taste for this one. Again, the writing was a little bit juvenile, but that's expected for YA, so I don't think that's anything against the author. But that sums up the books for this week. So my top book this week was The Puck Chase. That was my only 5-star book. And then the next one was You Better Watch Out. And then all of the other ones were either 3-star or 1-star. So not an amazing week for books in terms of like the quality and enjoyment, but still a pretty good week overall, and I read a lot of books, as you can see. So yeah, that wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give this video a like. Hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see more of my videos, and press that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful week ahead.